It's open theism and the problem of evil today on exegeting Calvinism. Greetings, welcome back to Exegeting Calvinism. My name is Michael Faber, your exegetical guide, and today we're going to take a little detour into the problem of evil and how open theism might solve that problem. Before we get started, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and as we go along, make sure you provide some running commentary in the comment section. So without further ado, open theism and the problem of evil, how an open future contributes to answering the problem of evil. So just as an outline, we're going to be defining the problem of evil. We're going to talk about the logical and evidential problems of evil, and then we're going to talk about how open theism and dominion combine to provide us an answer. So, definition of evil. First, evil is widely seen as profound immorality or suffering that results in harms to others. Usually Christians call this sin, or we can talk about natural evil in terms of earthquakes and other nature disasters, but mostly we're talking about moral sin, moral evils that occur. Philosophers debate if evil is an independent force, an absence of good, or a human creation. And it appears to me to be a human creation because humans are the ones that are choosing to do these things. But let's just put out there for some perspective. And as I mentioned, there is a distinction between moral and natural evil. Moral evil is something that we choose. Natural evil is natural events, earthquakes, diseases, floods, things generally beyond human control. The second one is less of a concern, I think, because it's not caused by humans. There may be some questions as to whether God should prevent earthquakes or things like that, but that's less, I guess, disturbing than some of the serious human evils that have resulted in the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. So the logical problem, can evil and God exist? So an omnipotent God is all-powerful and capable of preventing any evil from occurring. In terms of omnipotence, yes, that's true. And that is, I guess, half the problem. The other half of the problem is an omnibenevolent God is all good and desires to eliminate evil and suffering. And I would say that's probably true too, that God would rather us not experience evil, that we should live lives of peace and harmony, but we don't. So the existence of evil challenges the notion of an all-powerful, all-good deity due to apparent contradictions. So the weight of observed suffering, the evidential problem admits the undeniable presence of evil and suffering in the world. I don't think we can deny that that is the case. You'd have to be a pretty hardcore determinist just to say, well, this is all just occurring and suffering is just an illusion. And that's a pretty unpopular view. It questions whether the amount and severity of suffering challenge the belief in a benevolent God. And so the core of the problem, and I guess the reason that it's difficult to solve, is that you're looking at God and the immediate evil that's in front of us and how to justify those two things. So we do have a free will defense. And free will is the ability to make genuine choices, crucial for moral responsibility and authentic love. And so these are free from God's control, meaning that God isn't causing us to do these evil things as one might in a determinist type system. And so granting free will allows humans to be morally responsible for their actions, both good and evil. And so that does tend to relieve God of at least being the cause of moral evil. And thus evil exists as a consequence of free will, which is necessary for love and moral growth. However, that doesn't quite answer the question, because is God able to prevent evil? And does not. That brings into question God's omnibenevolence. So even if we are free creatures, it would seem that God could prevent evil when it occurs, and then it wouldn't occur. If God is unable to prevent evil, it brings into question God's omnipotence. And so clearly that's not an option either. So to some this seems an unsolvable problem, but maybe there's a solution. Open theism and free will. So open theism is truly free will in that the future is contingent rather than settled. So not even the fall was a certainty from the beginning, and neither is any moral evil. Thus, the fall is not a part of God's plan or will for creation. So what was God's plan for creation? Well, Genesis 1:26 through 28, God created man to be given dominion over the earth. That is actually the first meaning of being made in the image of God. We add other things on because of necessity as part of dominion or as part of being fruitful and multiplying and filling the earth. But the first part of being in the image of God is actually having dominion over the earth. And I'll link a link above here, I think right here, to a video that I have that talks more about that. But in order for God to prevent man from committing evil, he would have to void his decree in giving man dominion over the earth, which would result in a far greater evil that creation fails. So if we think for a minute, if God steps in every time we're about to sin or commit some kind of an evil act, we would stop having dominion over the earth, because it would really be God allows, God stops, God allows, God stops, and suddenly it's God that is back in control, back taking dominion over what he has given dominion to us to have. Now, this isn't to say that God doesn't rule over the universe, that God isn't established law and enforce law and is judge over the earth. That's true. But in true free will and dominion form, the earth should be guided by human actions primarily, with God interacting with us to guide us in the right direction. And then when we do, that's good, and when we don't, that's usually bad. So the philosophical challenge is a deep philosophical issue that continues to prompt serious contemplation, as well it should. It's a complicated question. Certainly not, this video is not going to solve it entirely. It's simply presenting an alternative. Understanding the problem involves examining definitions, logical and evidential concerns, and theodicies. And so various groups, Calvinists have their way of trying to solve it. Molinists have their way of trying to solve it. Arminians have their way of trying to solve it. Atheists have their way of trying to solve it. And so this is the open theist model, which I think presents a pretty good case. And the open theist solution, because man is given dominion over the earth, which is key. If we have been given dominion over the earth, and this is God's decree, then preventing evil acts would void God's decree that man has dominion, which would be a greater evil, in that God's purpose for creation would have failed. And I think that is a good reason for God to allow individual evils to occur, knowing that he is going to redeem creation. We're going to return to a time where evil is not a part of our lives, and we get to live eternally in this state without evil and with God forever. And so that's it. That's the problem of evil and the solution that open theism provides as an opportunity to answer the question. Please comment below as to what you think. Certainly this is worthy of discussion. This has been Exegeting Calvinism. My name is Michael Faber, and we'll see you next time.